Hey, what up, everybody? Stevie Breach coming to you tonight. I'm going to be reviewing one of my favorite wrestlers' DVDs from back in the day, a classic review from WWE DVD releases of 2002, Hulk Still Rules. Honestly, in my mind, Hulk Hogan is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. And one of the reasons that I really wanted to watch this documentary, because I honestly have not watched it in probably at least 10 years, is Luke Cara made a video. This was a good little while ago. I can't even give you a time frame, at least a few months back. His 10 least favorite WWE DVDs. I cannot guarantee you that it's still up on his channel, but I would definitely go over there and try and check it out because I did, and that's where I got the idea to go out and check out Hulk Still Rules, because I thought there was no way in the world that a documentary release on Hulk Hogan could be that bad. If you go through his WCW time, there was a few things that came out. There was a really, really bad, horrible A&E documentary that came out. I do not believe that it had a true WCW VHS release, but WCW did give him a horrible 30-minute documentary VHS release. Around the time of 1988, 1999, they were coming out with the Collector's Superstar series, as I believe they were calling it. It was probably called Hulk Rules, the same thing. It was based around his NWO Hollywood Hogan character. But basically, this was in the very beginning of when WWE first started making documentaries. I'm not a big fan of the early documentaries that came out. There was this one, the NWO Back in Black documentary. There's The Undertaker, This Is My Yard. It sort of gives another side to the character that you see on TV, but then it gives a very exaggerated view of the history that got that character to that person. Everybody knows the story of how the Briscoes, they found, not the Briscoes from ROH, but the Briscoes, Jerry and Jack, from Vince McMahon's little sidekick days, finding Hulk Hogan, taking him in, getting him trained, the Japanese trainer, taking a look at him the first time he ever came in, seeing that he had the rock and roll past. He basically didn't think that Hogan had what it took to be a wrestler, so on his first day of training, snapped his ankle. Hulk went home for a good period of time, got the ankle healed, went back, cut the hair up, sort of took the lesson that, he was there to learn, and basically did whatever he could do. He got trained up, and he started wrestling. He bounced around from places. Everybody remembers that, his old stomping grounds was in Florida. He said he went to Memphis and he worked for Jerry Lawler. He wasn't catching any breaks. And basically, he went home and he quit. The Briscoes, they went to him and they said, you can't quit. You got a bright future. They really believed in him. They called Vince McMahon personally and they made sure that Hogan got booked for Vince McMahon Sr. up there in the North. Everybody knows that he ran up there. He had big-time matches with Andre. He was managed by Classic Freddie Blassie. And the ball was rolling in his direction. Sylvester Stallone, the wrestling fan he is, saw Hogan, saw that there was something in this guy, booked him to get into Rocky III. This is something that Vince McMahon Sr. didn't really believe that they should be doing. Basically fired him because Hogan stood his ground, said, hey, I want to be a wrestler. And I also want to be a movie star. I want to make my brand as big as I can big it and be. And, being in this movie is going to make me a bigger star than anything that I'm doing right now. Vince fired him. And basically he went and he made the movie. The movie became a huge star for Sylvester Stallone. It made Hulk Hogan a real, big name. He went to the AWA. He wrestled there for a good little while. And when he was there, it was Vince McMahon Jr. that came along and decided, that Hulk Hogan was somebody that he could build his whole company around. He was going to be taking over for Vince Sr., buying the company, him and Linda. And Hulk Hogan was going to be the focal point of that company. The guy with the blonde hair, muscles on top of muscles, and just honestly was just bigger than life and booked to the right place, could run his company and take over the whole, country. From there, we go to the birth of Hulkamania, where Hogan comes out and saves Bob Backlund from an attack from the Wild Samoans. That was in December of 1983. By January of 1984, he beats the Iron Sheik. He takes the WWF Championship, and Hulk Hogan is on, the big launch. But honestly, I've talked about this for 5 minutes in this review. And honestly, all of this is being shot at you like this. His whole, startup, his whole growing up, his beginning in wrestling, his winning the title, honestly, is done in about the first 10 minutes of this documentary. It is big time rushed. And then you get thrown right into, this is, the dawn of WrestleMania, the feud with Roddy Piper. Then they jump right from that to WrestleMania 2 with him training to fight King Kong Bundy. From there, we see the heel turn of Paul Orndorff. And then, boom, we're right into WrestleMania 3 with Andre the Giant. One of the biggest moments of all time. Of course, Hogan tells this horrible made-up story about how he hated to fight Andre all these times. That, basically, he had earned Andre's respect from going over to Japan and wrestling in a match, and basically, which turned into a shoot match, where Japan was trying to win for real the WWF Championship at that time, because, WWF was leaving, and then if they left, they were going to be able to claim that they had the real WWF champion, and Hogan had to make sure that he won this match, and he won it, and he gained a little bit of Andre's respect, but at the same time, he felt that going into WrestleMania 3, if Andre wanted to win that match, Andre was going to win that match. And, of course, everybody knows how it pans out. Andre did business, Hulk won. Hulk was already a huge star, but he became a bigger star because he beat the one guy that had never been beat, Andre the Giant. From there, we jump into what I think is going to be WrestleMania 4 or WrestleMania 5, talking about Randy Savage, and this is the ultimate burial of Randy of all time. If Randy was still alive today and I was him, I would never work for Vince McMahon or be friends with Hulk Hogan again as well. This is almost as bad as a burial as the Lex Luger and Miss Elizabeth burial from Confidential. I can't believe the stuff that they let Hogan say on there. Basically, Hogan goes on about how him and Savage were best friends. He got Savage into the business, hooked him up with a guy that made his clothes, and basically was taking almost all the credit for the star that Randy Savage had become. Forget the intensity, forget the promos, forget the wrestling skills that Savage had. Hogan was acting like they were all his and nobody else's. He brings up the fact that Savage hates him to this day. He was making a movie and he invited Elizabeth to the movie set, and him and Linda talked to Elizabeth, and she split, and Savage and Hogan ended up getting a divorce. Savage blamed Hogan for it. Basically, they became friends again because he said Savage came to him and wanted to use him to get him into WCW. So basically, they became friends again. And then, not even fitting the storyline of where they are in, like, WrestleMania 4, WrestleMania 5 time period, jumps straight ahead to Gorgeous George and Savage being together, and Gorgeous George getting freaky, splitting on Savage, and all of a sudden that was his fault too. And as you're watching this, you're just like, what the fuck? Like, where did this come from? You're just burying people left and right. But then again, they've been said that, like, Ric Flair, when he wrote his book, said WWE was pushing on him to put as much controversial stuff in there, to make sure the dirt sheets would put stuff in there. So maybe that's why they did it. But still, I couldn't believe that Hogan said all that stuff. They talk about Hulkamania winding down. They bring up Tuesday in Texas when he loses to The Undertaker. But then all of a sudden they jump right in and you can watch it on the screen. You're seeing him lose his last match to Yokozuna. And you're like, well, that was a 2-year time slip right there. I don't know what the fuck happened there. Talk about him joining WCW. And if it wasn't for the NWO stuff, they talk about all of his WCW run in honestly about 2 minutes. They want to put over the fact that WCW was a big company because mostly they want to bring up the fact that WCW slipped up. Vince McMahon was able to fix his company and take back over the wrestling wars. But Hogan takes a few punches, basically saying that it was him that beat Vince, but then saying it was basically WCW and Vince Russo. They showed the was that Spring Stampede when Russo comes out there and tells them that he can be the champion, but he has to leave. And then they say, this is your bullshit that's running this company right down the toilet. They show that clip. And, I don't know, basically, after that, they just say Hogan splits, and he comes back to WWE. They show the clip of Vince McMahon injecting the poison back into WCW, back into the WWE, because Ric Flair had regained the company, or I guess gained control of the company at the Royal Rumble 2002. And they just hype up the Rock match at WrestleMania 18. And seeing how this documentary lasts over an hour, they spend almost 20 minutes talking about The Rock versus Hogan. I know that the match had just taken place, and it was one of the biggest matches they had at that time, and WWE was probably, really ecstatic that they've got back into working these huge stadium shows for WrestleMania, starting at 16, but this is 18. But they never really tell the story. Hogan tells this story about, basically he got in to come back with the NWO. He wanted to work the one match with Rock. He wanted to come out on Raw, and he wanted to say goodbye. Well, then the NWO jumped him, and he wasn't able to say goodbye. But why didn't he leave after he beat the NWO that night on Raw? He just all of a sudden became WWE Champion at Backlash 2002 by beating Triple H, which still mind boggles me. I know that Hogan was hot. I know that. But I was watching then. I was a Hogan fan then. I was a Triple H fan then. And I hated the fact that Hogan won the championship. It didn't make sense. Triple H was at the top of his game. He had just came back from his huge quad injury, winning the Royal Rumble in 2002, beating Jericho to become the WWE champion. And within a month, you have him lose the belt? What the fuck was the point of him getting to that point where he won the title, won the Royal Rumble, and was looked at as one of the biggest stars in the world, just to drop the belt to Hogan? You could have done 1,000 things with Hogan rather than put the belt on him, but that's what they did. The closing points of this DVD, honestly, to me, is one of the best things. Hogan's doing an autograph signing. It's just him and some fans that were lucky enough to be able to meet him. I'm not sure what the signing is for, but almost everybody is getting the same NWO Hulk Hogan figure signed, so more than likely it's at a toy store or something like that. It doesn't look like his book has come out. I don't see anybody getting the book signed. But it's just fans like me just, saying how much Hulk Hogan means to them. And this is like, as I'm watching it, I'm just dreaming that I will get the chance to meet Hogan, whether if it's at WrestleCon, whether if it's at Access. I know my friends are going out there saying they're going to pay whatever it takes to meet The Undertaker. Hogan is my guy. I care about meeting Hogan more than anybody, and I will meet him someday. Hulk Hogan, if you were watching this, it's me and you time, brother. It's going to be one-on-one in the middle of the ring, and it's not going to be WrestleMania. You're getting a hug from me. I'm telling you that right now. But this documentary does, honestly, not rank high on my list. Most of the ones from 2002, 2003 are in that same spot. WWE just didn't know what they were doing. Did they want to tell the true stories the way they happened? Did they want to keep it kayfabe and protect the business? I think that what they've done now is they protect certain people and they protect certain stories, but they tell the behind the scenes as much as they can. Like when you're talking about the WWE 50-year anniversary and you're talking about the Owen Hart death, you're talking about the wrestler steroid case, you're talking about Hacksaw admitting that, he did roids, this, that, and the other. I mean, the bonus features that you get on here, the special matches, the interviews, the promos, makes this a whole lot better. But as a documentary, I hope with Hogan coming back into the fold, with him being a part of what's going on, he needs a complete documentary that ranks up there with Ric Flair, Stone Cold Steve Austin. I would say The Rock, but they didn't fucking put the Cena matches in there. And two of the biggest matches of Rock's career happened at WrestleMania 28 and WrestleMania 29, and they're not on The Rock documentary. Honestly, it's been over 10 years. You could easily go back. You can easily make this DVD again. Make the match selections a little bit stronger. And this would be a Class A stuff. WWE pumps out Class A plus documentaries. And this needs to be redone. Hulk Still Rules Part 2. I'm asking for it.